You've got you got a right wing right now that doesn't have very much holding it together, and the conservatives are becoming more conservative, and the libertarians are becoming more libertarian. We don't have the old Soviet Union to hold us together. The left is getting so much more aggressive, they barely see any distinction between anyone on the right anyway. They want to just kill us all and salt the earth on which we once stood. Is there someone who can bring us together in 2024, say, whether that's your governor, whether that's Trump, whether that's someone else in the country? Is there someone who can do it, or do we need to wait for a new candidate?
For the last however many years have told us how much we should hate evil corporations, right? Corporations have too much power over us, and they buy too much political influence, and they must be evil, and they're somehow capitalistic. That's doubly evil. Who do they love right now? They love Disney. They love the most evil corporation in the world that is trying. I mean, DeSantis is literally fighting Disney tooth and nail right now to keep their policies out of Floridians' classrooms. He's the guy that was elected to be chief executive of the state. Now, you may not like his policies, but that's what his job is. But and that's what I mean about people flipping all of their beliefs based on politics. And you can't disconnect that from people that don't have a belief in something else. If you just believe that on any given day, whatever happens politically or culturally, that's reality, you are going to be freaking crazy, especially in an age of algorithms and big tech and bots and everything else. If your worldview is this got a lot of retweets, that guy said the thing and he's wearing the lab coat, and the rest of it, and the fact that, and the book does go quite heavy into this too, the mainstream media has lied to us about absolutely everything. So now you take a bunch of people who maybe don't have a very strong original, say, base view of the world. They haven't figured out if they believe or they don't believe. They're not sure if they believe in individual rights or what they really believe. You take them, they're already sort of shaking. Now you take a pandemic, you throw it on top of that. Now they're really kind of crazy and scared and everything else. And then you take a media that has literally lied about everything, from Hunter Biden to Brett Kavanaugh as a racist, to the Covington kids, to Kyle Rittenhouse as a white supremacist, to very fine people on both sides, to the litany, to Jussie Smollett. We could do this all day.
Yeah.
Well, of course you're going to end up with a population that is half insane.
So
or a population that half of it is insane.
Right. You bring up your governor down there in Florida. You brought him up a few times now, Dave. So I have to ask, we're having this wonderful religious, cultural, philosophical conversation. I want to put
and
all
by the way,
aside.
you're a great host. I just want to say, really great
Stop
host,
it.
by the way.
Come
really
on,
fantastic.
get out of here. You're going to make me blush. Come on, if I weren't so tan, I'd blush. But I want to put all that good stuff aside for a second and talk about rough, hard, nuts and bolts politics, because this is a big theme of the book and what we're talking about here. What are you going to do about it? You got a right wing right now that doesn't have very much holding it together, and the conservatives are becoming more conservative, and the libertarians are becoming more libertarian. We don't have the old Soviet Union to hold us together. The left is getting so much more aggressive, they barely see any distinction between anyone on the right anyway. They want to just kill us all and salt the earth on which we once stood. Is there someone who can bring us together in 2024, say, whether that's your governor, whether that's Trump, whether that's someone else in the country? Is there someone who can do it, or do we need to wait for a new candidate?
Well, first, as I try to make the argument in the book, politics is not going to save us here. So the stuff that's going to save us is what we started talking about, which is the build new things, figure out your community and your life and all that. However, politics is not nothing. There is a reason that we do this for a living. And even if in the world that you and I, Michael, want to live in, politics should be small enough to fit, in a little box that we can tuck away in our pocket. That's not what we have right now. So we have to fight for that, let's say. And at the end of the day, the size of that thing may be a little bit different for the two of us. I would say this about DeSantis. Look, it is not going to get better than him. It really isn't. In an American context of politics, with a deeply corrupt media, I would say at this point an evil corporate press, you are not going to get a better guy than this. He's 42, 43 years old. military background. He is fearless in fighting the media. I've had dinner with him a few times, and I've spoke to him a couple times, and I've gone to events where he's spoken at. And I can tell you, this guy, he does not want to be king. He does not want to be your ruler. He's a guy that sort of, it doesn't even sound at some level like he wants to be president. Like, he really sounds like a guy that should be, and I guess this is a little bit of the Trump thing, that he should be running a business. He's like, I say things, I make decisions, we see what happens, and then, I do it again. He doesn't get affected by polls. He's strong, he's picking the right fights. And I say all this without, I don't worship politicians. I obviously, I like and admire the guy, obviously. But I like and admire him because of the reasons because of the fact that he wants to mostly stay out of our lives. The point of the Don't Say Gay Bill H1557, which again has the word gay isn't in it, and they could have just as easily called it the Don't Say Straight Bill, because you're not allowed to talk about straight sex with a second grader, obviously, you morons. The point of the bill was to keep the government out of these things, that state employees shouldn't be discussing these things with kids. It's not more government, it's less government, actually. It's the government reining in what state employees can do. So that, to me, is the type of thing that we want. Now, we have a great problem, I would say, a good problem here in Florida, which is that he's up for re-election, obviously, in November. He's going to win by a landslide. I think he's going to win, and I hope and I believe it will be by a landslide. And then what I hope happens from that is that landslide then really causes the states to start going like dominoes one by, we got the Youngkin win. It was pretty damn close. DeSantis will win by more. Hopefully Texas stays red. Tennessee's obviously going to stay red. You're going to be fine. But then some of the places that could go either way, Colorado, Indiana, that they're going to fully go red. And then it doesn't mean that everyone in those red states is going to have every perfect Republican Party platform. I always remind, and I write about him in the book in a different context, but everyone thinks and knows that Rudy Giuliani obviously is a conservative. Rudy Giuliani happens to be pro-choice, but no one's doubting that he's a conservative and that you would want Rudy Giuliani on your side, regardless of the bad hair dye dripping down his head and some of the yelling and everything else. I mean, he's a good guy. You would want him on your side. He's a fighter. So I want DeSantis to crush here. And then I suppose after crushing here, that then he is the best candidate for 24. The Trump thing is what confuses this. Would the best situation be that Trump is the bodyguard, run the rallies, fight for the platform and the party and the country, and let DeSantis go through? That's the best situation. Can Trump do that? Does he want to do that? Does he want to put his ego aside to do that? I'm not sure. And the other problem with the Trump thing, and I look forward to interviewing him again, and I hope if you interview him that you could ask him this directly, which is that the fear with the Trump thing, I think there's two real things, which is one, would the machine allow him to win?
Right.
Whatever the machine is.
Would it even be possible? Right.
Would it even be possible? That's number one. And number two, even if you accept that the machine would, whatever I mean by that, the base of the Democrats is so depressed right now. Their candidate has dementia, and the backup woman is I think, has the equivalent, let's say, IQ of maybe a sixth grader. She was polling at 0 in her own party. Yeah. Everything is a mess right now. Inflation, gas prices, they made up the war, the other thing, it's all terrible. But suddenly, if Trump runs, you can probably get 5 million extra people to show up out of the woodwork just because they hate Trump. So Trump really has to acknowledge those things. And again, that's not a knock on Trump. And I really would ask him that to his face, what he thinks about that. But all of that being put aside, I think there's such a rich opportunity for a truly interesting, wide tent Republican Party right now. But it's going to be work for us, man. It really is. If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.